Chosen one, welcome. Radiant ones, those rare, unmistakable souls who shift the entire atmosphere just by showing up. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to perform. Your presence alone unsettles the fake and awakens the real. If you've ever walked into a room and felt the vibe change, if conversations stop mid-sentence, if laughter turns forced, or if someone suddenly acts strange, you already know what's going on. That's what happens when divine alignment enters a space polluted by performance. You're not just different, you're divine, and your presence exposes what can no longer pretend. Let me take a moment before we dive in to say something important. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through a super thanks donation. Your generosity allows this light to reach farther, touch deeper, and awaken more chosen ones across the world. Whether you gave big or small, or simply showed up and stayed through the message, I'm deeply grateful for you. And if you haven't given and still feel led to just receive, know that your presence is valued beyond words. This space is for you. Now let's talk about the unexpected twist, the divine reversal you never had to orchestrate. You see, when they started digging, they weren't looking for truth. They were hunting for dust. They assumed you had something to hide. They thought quiet meant secret. But instead of scandal, they found structure. Instead of chaos, they ran into clarity. That's what happens when your lifestyle matches your spirit. You're not perfect, but you're intentional. You don't just avoid drama, you disarm it. You don't need to clap back, because your consistency already does the talking. They thought you were easy to break down because you don't boast. You don't over-explain. You don't justify your integrity to people who thrive on confusion. But what they didn't realize is that silence backed by consistency is the loudest statement of all. And now look what's happening. The same people who came to expose you, they're walking away convicted, telling stories of how steady you really are. That's divine irony. That's poetic justice. That's what happens when your identity is built on truth and not on trend. So here's the real truth, chosen one. You are not under attack. You are under review and still passing every test. What they thought would destroy your name has only confirmed your calling. What they meant for harm, heaven is using as validation. This isn't just a season of survival. This is your elevation. They tried to make your name a warning, but now it's being spoken in rooms you've never entered. With respect, with awe, with curiosity. You've been tested, but you haven't been touched. You've been watched, but you haven't been wounded. And everything they meant to use as evidence has become your endorsement. Because when your foundation is this solid, even your enemies become your advertisement. Let them investigate, let them whisper, let them question, because the more they search, the more they'll find exactly what God already confirmed. You are protected, prepared, and positioned. So if you're ready to take this journey into how their plan to break you only built you, how their rumors became your revelation, and how your silence became your strategy, then let's go deeper, because this is not just a story of defense. This is the story of your divine credibility becoming undeniable. And if you've been waiting for confirmation, if you've been searching for peace or wondering why your stillness feels so powerful lately, drop a 900-999 in comments right now. That's your sign, that's your signal, that's your agreement with heaven, that you're not here by accident, you're here on assignment. Welcome, chosen one. Let's begin. God's chosen ones. They questioned the crowd, and the crowd spoke truth that embarrassed them. Some people aren't observing you to gain insight or understanding. They're watching with narrowed eyes and sharpened intentions. And chosen one, don't mistake their gaze for admiration or honest interest. It's not about wanting to know you. It's about wanting to catch you. Their eyes follow you not to honor your walk, but to dissect it, hoping to magnify the smallest misstep into a public spectacle. Do you ever wonder why their curiosity feels so cold? Why their compliments seem laced with undertones of skepticism? That's because it's not curiosity, it's calculation. There's a strategy in their silence, a hidden hunt behind their smiles, a quiet desperation to unmask you. They want to believe your peace is performative, your light is store-bought, and your consistency is a rehearsed illusion. But what disturbs them the most is not what they discover, it's what they fail to find. They expect to uncover a crack in your foundation. Instead, they collide with solid stone. Why does that shake them so deeply? Because you, dear chosen one, are built on alignment, not on appearance. You're not scrambling to clean up chaos because your life isn't built on cover-ups. You didn't prepare a facade, you became the truth. What they never counted on was someone who walks in such integrity that they leave no room for scandal to take root. So now they're left bewildered. Their whispers fall into silence, their doubts find no echo, and their traps return to them empty. Isn't it ironic? They needed you to fall in order to justify their disbelief, but you didn't fall, and now their skepticism has nothing to cling to. This is what happens when a soul is aligned with divine order, when your private life reflects the same peace as your public presence. You don't need to stage a defense when your life itself is a living testimony. What if I told you that your stillness is louder than their shouting, that your consistency is more confrontational than any argument? This is spiritual warfare without a sword, because the battlefield was your character and you already won. Look at how Jesus himself was interrogated by the Pharisees, scrutinized at every turn, baited with trick questions, followed not for truth but for entrapment, and yet he never scrambled. Why? Because he walked in truth, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That freedom is your portion too. You are not obligated to respond to every rumor or correct every whisper. The truth you live out daily will correct the lies for you. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for decades, scrutinized by political enemies, painted as a danger to the state. And yet, when the time came, his integrity could not be dismantled by the weight of accusation. Instead, his patience and grace dismantled the systems that oppressed him. Or take Oprah Winfrey, dragged through the media countless times, criticized for her weight, her beliefs, her choices. But through it all, her consistency never cracked. The crowd eventually spoke, not in gossip but in admiration. What if your consistency is the very thing silencing your critics without you having to lift a finger? Let me ask you, why does your peace provoke them so much? Why does your ability to remain unmoved create so much internal noise for people who've built their lives on appearances? Could it be because your calm exposes their chaos, your steadiness challenges their instability, your inner alignment makes their outer performances tremble? The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27:1. You don't walk in fear because you walk in truth. And truth doesn't panic under pressure, it stands taller. And when those around you try to send whispers like bait into the crowd, hoping someone will expose you, something else happens instead. The crowd doesn't find dirt, they find devotion. They don't uncover flaws, they uncover faith. The very people they hoped would turn against you end up speaking in your favor. And that, chosen one, is the loudest silence of all. Look at Malala Yousafzai. They tried to silence her, discredit her, frame her fight for education as rebellion. But the more they scrutinized her, the more her truth spoke through the crowd. The testimony of her courage drowned out the criticism. Or think of Keanu Reeves, private, often misunderstood, and yet when people tried to mock or speculate about him, the truth always circled back. Stories of his quiet generosity, his humility, his humanity, those stories rose like light through the fog. Isn't that what happens to the chosen? Even when targeted, truth testifies on your behalf. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You're not shining for applause. You're not living clean for validation. You're aligned because God called you to be a vessel that reflects Him even in the dark. And guess what? Darkness hates a light it can't extinguish. That's why the pressure has been so real lately. That's why the crowd has been buzzing. They don't want to admit what they now know. You really are who you say you are. Sometimes people need the crowd to speak because the crowd is their last hope of controlling the narrative. But when the crowd speaks truth, and that truth uplifts you instead of accusing you, they have no moves left to make. The lie collapses before it even gets a chance to live. Isn't that justice? Isn't that divine reversal? Even Martin Luther King Jr. faced the same trial. People tried to discredit him at every turn, personal life, theology, activism. But over time, the crowd couldn't deny what was real. The fruit of his life spoke louder than the slander. And even today, the legacy he left behind silences every lie that once tried to define him. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. You don't have to wage war with rumors. You don't need to chase down every false word. You just need to keep walking in what's real. God has already commanded that truth will outlast the noise. So keep walking boldly, chosen one. Your silence has power. Your presence shakes the room. Your testimony is being written not in reactions, but in reality. And when they try to drag your name into gossip, remember, they're not speaking about you. They're wrestling with the truth they see in you. They think reputation is delicate, fragile, like thin glass, easily shattered by a few rumors tossed with precision. But chosen one, they've miscalculated, because what you've built wasn't rooted in public opinion. It was built on purpose. You haven't been shaping your identity through applause or approval. You've been living it out, day by day in quiet rooms and unrecorded moments, stacking presence on top of presence like bricks of divine legacy. They assumed they could ruin your name with a whisper campaign. But how do you destroy something that was never constructed from noise in the first place? You didn't come to be admired. You came to be anchored. And what's anchored cannot be swept away by the winds of gossip. They tossed out distortion, hoping it would spread like wildfire, fast, chaotic, and uncontested. But when the smoke began to rise, people didn't inhale it. They started asking questions. They started looking deeper. And what did they find? Not a scandal, but a story. Not a flaw, but a foundation. People who actually know you, who've witnessed your posture, your peace, your pattern. They don't echo the lie. They respond from experience. That's not who I've seen. They've always been steady. They never gave that kind of energy. And that right there, chosen one, is what they never anticipated, a life lived so consistently, so authentically, that the truth defends itself. Have you ever wondered why the attacks feel so persistent? Why the rumors seem crafted with such care? It's because they believe image is everything, and if they can just crack the image, the identity will fall with it. But your identity wasn't born in spotlight. It was refined in shadow. And what's built in darkness with God doesn't break in the light with man. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Proverbs 11:3, your path is guided by truth, not tactics. You're not merely defending a name, you're embodying a legacy. Think of Rosa Parks. They tried to reduce her to a tired woman on a bus, but her refusal to give up her seat wasn't an isolated act of defiance. It was the visible fruit of years of quiet, consistent resistance and principled living. Her real power wasn't in that moment, it was in everything that led up to it. Or consider Fred Rogers, better known as Mr. Rogers. Gentle, kind, slow-speaking, so naturally people questioned if it was an act. But when whispers began to rise, every person who had ever met him in real life said the same thing. He was exactly as he appeared. No scandals, no secrets, just steady kindness. What happens when a life is lived so sincerely that no rumor can rewrite it? That's what's happening to you, chosen one. They didn't realize they were up against something deeper than your image. They're contending with your integrity. And integrity isn't something you post, it's something you practice. In rooms with no audience, in conversations with no agenda, in daily choices that no one applauds but heaven records. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Proverbs 10:9. Your security doesn't come from how others see you, it comes from how God has kept you. That's why the narrative won't stick. It's not that someone is defending you with a loud voice, it's that too many people have already seen the truth with quiet eyes. Let's talk about Chadwick Boseman. While he battled cancer in silence, the world judged his weight loss and speculated wildly. But after his passing, the truth came out, and it didn't just correct the lie, it dismantled it. His silent endurance, his unshakable excellence, and his unwavering focus became the testimony. The crowd didn't need convincing, they wept in agreement. Your quiet strength, too, is creating a legacy that will speak even when you don't. Why do they struggle to accept your peace? Why do they search so hard for evidence of hypocrisy? Could it be that your presence unsettles their performance? That your consistency reminds them of everything they faked but never became? You see, lies are allergic to truth. They can't stand in the same space. So when you walk into a room carrying years of integrity, it causes discomfort in those who live by illusion. For we aim at what is honorable, not only in the Lord's sight, but also in the sight of man. 2 Corinthians 8:21. You've walked in a way that honors not only heaven but history. Your reputation doesn't rest on defense, it rests on demonstration. Your impact wasn't made in grand gestures, it was made in quiet moments when no one was watching, yet your character held the line. Take the example of Dolly Parton. Often underestimated or made into a caricature, she has spent decades building a life of philanthropy, consistency and generosity. When critics rise, her record answers for her. Her Dolly Parton Imagination Library has given away over 200 million books to children, yet she rarely promotes it herself. That's the kind of legacy the enemy cannot discredit. That's what you're building. You didn't come to impress the crowd. You came to leave an imprint on it. And when those who tried to manipulate the narrative finally realize that their lies aren't working, that people aren't buying what they're selling, they don't just face disappointment, they face frustration, because they weren't expecting your truth to be so deeply rooted, so widely witnessed, so stubbornly real. They counted on silence to keep their story alive, but they forgot something essential. Truth doesn't need a microphone to speak. When people have seen your light firsthand, they don't remain quiet to defend you. They speak because the truth insists on being heard. Look at Anthony Bourdain. He lived authentically, admitted his flaws, and stood with the vulnerable. And though many tried to paint him with skepticism, the overwhelming truth of his heart, confirmed by those who traveled and cried and cooked with him, became the dominant story. The integrity of who he really was outshined the speculation. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. That's what you're doing. You're not reacting to the lie, you're overpowering it with your light, with your record, with your walk. And when quiet loyalty rises to defend you, not out of pressure but out of pure experience, that's when the lie collapses under the weight of truth, too strong to shake. Sometimes, chosen one, it's not the noise around your name that carries the most power, it's the silence. And not silence born from neglect or insignificance, but a strategic, reverent silence that speaks louder than any argument ever could. Have you noticed that in rooms where people are quick to gossip about others, your name barely leaves their lips? Have you ever wondered why, even among those who don't particularly like you, your name still doesn't get dragged? That isn't coincidence. That's covering. That's the spiritual shield of consistency, honor and truth. Because when you walk steady, not just in public but in private, your life builds a quiet force field, the kind of protection that doesn't always roar but never retreats. While others try to stir the pot, trying to rile up old dust, all that comes up is clear ground. What happens when people look for a scandal and find nothing but a pattern of peace? What happens when even those who aren't your allies still won't speak against you? That's the kind of reputation only heaven can preserve. And you didn't earn it by being flashy. You earned it by being faithful. There are those watching you from the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike not with fists but with rumors. They believe that if they apply enough pressure, someone somewhere will crack and spill some hidden version of you that will finally make sense of their envy. They're convinced that your shine must come with a secret stain. They believe no one can be that aligned without something scandalous hidden underneath. So they lean in, they investigate, they whisper, they plant. But the trap they build doesn't ensnare you, it collapses on itself. Why? Because integrity can't be undermined by assumption, and silence isn't your defense, it's your evidence. What they didn't plan for was the strength of neutral people, not your inner circle, not your biggest supporters, but the ones who've merely observed you, who've seen your consistency from afar. These are not people who owe you anything. These are not people who've benefited from your wins. And yet when lies float their way, they won't bite. Because even if they don't know you well, they know enough to say, no, that doesn't sound like them. That, chosen one, is divine confirmation through unexpected mouths. That is the kind of testimony you cannot manufacture. It's earned through years of quiet integrity. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Do you understand what that means for you? That your alignment with God doesn't just protect you from attack, it reshapes the very environment around you. It turns tension into truce. It silences opposition with unseen authority. You don't need to defend yourself when heaven has already sent witnesses to do it for you. Look at the life of Princess Diana. Hounded by media, misrepresented by tabloids, followed by critics at every turn. And yet, even in the midst of global rumor mills, there were always voices, some not even close to her, who consistently stepped up and said, "That's not the woman I met." Her kindness, even in passing moments, was so real that it left imprints on strangers. That's the power of steady character. Or take Robin Williams. After his death, stories poured out from everyday people he encountered over decades. Kindness at airports, encouragement on sets, joy in hallways. Even people who didn't agree with his comedy respected his heart. The silence around his name after his passing wasn't absence, it was reverence. So when others try to stir noise about you hoping it will erupt into scandal, and instead they're met with stillness, with indifference, with respectful silence, that isn't because people are unaware, it's because your walk has built too much weight for foolishness to carry. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Your name has become untouchable not because it's perfect, but because it's been consistent. It's hard to lie about someone who has left behind truth everywhere they've gone. You see, people will try to pressure others into speaking ill of you. They'll say things like, "You must have seen something," or "You know what they're really like, right?" But when those questions fall flat, when no one steps forward with venom, the scheme begins to unravel. Because truth has a way of multiplying, while lies wither without fuel. Just like Maya Angelou, her poise and dignity silenced critics over decades. Though many tried to question her past, her words and her choices, those who knew her or worked alongside her echoed the same line: she lived what she spoke, and that reality protected her name long after she left the room. You, chosen one, don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to jump into every fire they start with your name in their mouth. Do you know why? Because even the people who don't walk with you won't lie on you. And that, in this world, is rare. That's not reputation, that's righteousness. No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes. Psalm 101:7. God has a way of filtering out the fake before they can speak, of closing mouths before they can launch destruction, of confusing the tongues of those who gather to sabotage you. Consider Brendan Fraser. For years he was shunned, misrepresented, and blacklisted in Hollywood. But the people who'd worked with him, the stylists, camera operators, minor actors, held their ground. They remembered his humility, his authenticity, and spoke truth while others speculated. That consistent trail of goodness brought him back into the light. And just like him, you too are protected by a history that walks beside you like a shield. It's easy for people to believe that your silence is emptiness, that your quiet presence means there's something missing or something hiding. But chosen one, let me reveal the truth. They don't expect. Your quietness is not a void, it's a fortress. And even those who never got close enough to know your full story feel the weight of that quiet. The ones who drifted away without drama, the ones who were never for or against you, the ones who had no emotional investment in your path, they don't fuel the fire, they don't stoke the rumor. When they're asked about you, they shrug, they nod, maybe mention that you kept to yourself, that you were calm, reserved, focused. But that's where the story ends. No mess, no scandal, no contradiction. Why? Because even indifference respects integrity. And that, dear chosen one, isn't luck. That's character in motion. That's a life lived so aligned that even neutrality can't misrepresent it. Have you ever stopped to consider the power of being so consistent that even people who don't know you well still won't question your truth? Isn't that a kind of spiritual gravity? A quiet pull toward honesty that you don't even have to initiate? That's what happens when your private life agrees with your public walk. You don't need applause and you don't need defenders. Your life itself becomes the shield. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out. Proverbs 10:9. You've walked securely, and that security repels slander like oil repels water. Those orchestrating the whispers rely on bias. They hope that people's preconceived notions, assumptions, or bitterness will latch onto their narrative. They expect the crowd to be easily manipulated. But what they don't realize is this: neutrality often bends toward integrity. Because when there's no smoke, even those looking for fire start to question the arsonist instead. They were expecting betrayal. They got balance. They were banking on chaos. Instead, they found clarity. That's when things start to burn. Not because anyone shouted your innocence from the rooftops, but because even the passive voices refuse to validate the lie. What they uncover isn't dirt, it's absence. The absence of drama, the absence of contradiction, the absence of anything they can use. And this kind of absence is louder than any noise they hope to make. You see, in their search for scandal, they don't just fail to discredit you, they accidentally expose themselves. What they thought would be evidence becomes a mirror. What they meant as condemnation becomes confrontation. They expected to unveil your flaws, but instead they're handed a reflection, one that shows their own lack of substance, their own instability, their own envy. Have you noticed that the more they try to distort your image, the more real people begin speaking about your steadiness? Not in dramatic testimonials, but in calm, grounded accounts. People say things like, they've always been the same, or never saw them out of alignment, or simply, no drama with them. And every time one of those words is spoken, the false image they tried to build starts to crumble. Take, for example, the story of Jon Stewart. For years, critics tried to paint him as too biased, too confrontational, too political, but behind the scenes, those who worked with him, writers, interns, production staff, shared consistent stories of humility, fairness, and deep listening. It wasn't loud defense that protected him, it was the absence of contradiction. Or consider the late Paul Walker. While tabloids occasionally tried to invent chaos, those who knew him, from community volunteers to co-stars, spoke of his quiet generosity, his authenticity, his love for people. Even those not in his inner circle couldn't help but confirm the same pattern: steady, kind, real. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Romans 12:9. That's what your life has been doing, holding fast to what is good. And when people walk in goodness long enough, the atmosphere around them refuses to accept distortion. Even in rooms where deception could thrive, your light has made lying difficult, and that's what frustrates them most. Not the failure of their rumor, but the success of your witness. You didn't ask for a spotlight, you didn't seek attention, and yet, chosen one, your alignment has made you radiant. You became the light they tried to extinguish, not by shouting, but by simply existing. And here's the most uncomfortable truth for them. The more your life remains consistent, the more unstable their own choices begin to feel in comparison. That's why their frustration isn't really about you, it's about what you represent. You are living proof that it is possible to walk steady without manipulation, to rise without games, to win without compromise. Take LeBron James. Over the years, he's faced harsh criticism, media spins, and false accusations. But when you hear what people who've worked around him say, coaches, janitors, former teammates, it's always the same. He's consistent, he's focused, he's generous. His off-court life has stayed so true that the crowd gradually quieted itself. His spotlight didn't expose weakness, it exposed discipline. Or think of Greta Thunberg. Many tried to twist her image, label her as angry or manipulated. But the more she spoke, calmly, firmly, repeatedly, the more the public saw that her truth was rooted in something immovable. The Lord will vindicate me. Your love, Lord, endures forever. Do not abandon the works of your hands. Psalm 138:8. You don't have to vindicate yourself, chosen one. You are the work of his hands. And when the Creator's fingerprints are all over your story, the lies of men simply don't stick. They fall off. They bounce back. They dissolve in the presence of consistency. So now, those who tried to weaponize the spotlight find themselves trapped beneath it. They aimed its heat at you, hoping it would reveal scandal, but instead, it illuminated their motives, their bitterness, their empty grasping. The storm they summoned never reached you. It circled back to them. And the worst part for them, you never had to fight back. You never had to clap back. You just kept living, kept walking, kept shining. You became a spotlight without trying, and under your light shadows can no longer pretend. Because in this war of whispers and misdirection, the loudest weapon you carried was consistency, and that weapon won without a single word. Chosen one, what you're dealing with isn't always direct attack. It's shadow warfare. They rely on perception as their weapon, not truth, not action, not evidence, just whispers. Whispers coated in false confidence, spoken boldly in rooms where no one stops to check the facts. And because no one slows down to question, perception gains traction. They don't need proof, they only need tone. All they need is the suggestion of scandal wrapped in a convincing voice. That's the trap. If they can shape how people view you, they never have to confront who you truly are. Isn't that easier for them? To shape an illusion rather than face the reality of your spiritual power, your character, your discipline. Their goal isn't to challenge your truth head-on. That would require courage. That would require vulnerability. Instead, their aim is containment. They don't want to fight you. They want to shrink you, to control how others experience you, so they never get the chance to experience your truth at all. But what they forget, chosen one, is that stories, especially false ones, have a way of unraveling on their own. What happens when the script leaves the safety of their inner circle and starts touching people who don't have an agenda? The illusion starts to wobble, because now real observers begin to weigh in. Colleagues, neighbors, people with no emotional investment in the outcome, people who've seen your actions, your manner, your alignment, often from a distance, quietly, without your knowledge. They step forward, and what they offer isn't dramatic loyalty or defense, it's clarity. And clarity has a way of shattering deception without ever raising its voice. Nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. That's not just a warning, it's a divine guarantee. When the lie reaches those who have no personal bias, it stops being a lie they can easily spread. They begin to say things like, "That doesn't match what I've seen," or "They've never acted that way with me," or simply, "That doesn't add up." And when enough people say that, the entire illusion begins to collapse. This is exactly what happened with Simone Biles. She faced endless media narratives questioning her strength, her decisions, her mental state. But those around her, teammates, coaches, even distant colleagues, offered quiet, grounded clarity. She's consistent, she's wise, and she's protective of her peace. And suddenly, the public tone began to shift. Why? Because truth, when spoken softly by enough real witnesses, overpowers distortion. So ask yourself, why were they so desperate to sculpt your image in private? Why didn't they bring their concerns to the light if they were rooted in truth? Could it be because they knew the truth wouldn't serve their agenda? Could it be that they feared not what you'd say, but what your life already proves? But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. And you, chosen one, have been bearing fruit, quietly, faithfully, not in performance, but in posture, not through shouting, but through being. You didn't live your life for applause, you lived it in alignment. And that alignment speaks even when you don't. Your grounded energy leaves a mark that even strangers pick up on. Think about Kai Hu Kwan, who returned to acting after years of silence. His humility, his gratitude, his joy, it all cut through decades of industry silence. When he finally stepped back into the spotlight, his consistent energy became undeniable. People who barely knew him rallied around him, not because he campaigned for it, but because they could feel his realness. That's the power of living in truth over time. The ones who tried to shape your story from the shadows didn't anticipate how powerful that silent testimony would become. They expected you to argue, to scramble, to retaliate. Instead, you stayed grounded. You kept moving with calm. You let your life do the talking. And now, they're watching the entire narrative fall apart. Not because you yelled over them, but because their words lacked weight and your presence carried too much. The lie doesn't break when you scream. It breaks when people start checking the facts instead of the tone. And when that happens, the real loss they experience isn't just that their plan failed, it's that they lost control. The power they thought they had over your image is gone. And even worse, the mask they wore to orchestrate perception begins to slip. What gets exposed isn't you, it's them, standing in the wreckage of a story that was never strong enough to stand in the light. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. God delights in the trustworthiness you've cultivated. You don't have to announce your purity. You don't have to prove your innocence. You simply are who you are, and that unnerves them. Because in a world where people are always performing, You remain unchanged. You don't chase validation. You don't sculpt your life for likes or shape your spirit to earn approval. You don't campaign for character points. You simply live them, and that terrifies the ones who can only manufacture what you've actually become. Consider the quiet legacy of Bob Ross. No self-promotion, no need to prove his character, and yet decades after his passing, his legacy of peace, creativity, and kindness remains untouched. Why? Because his reputation wasn't built on image, it was built on lived truth. That's the kind of power you're cultivating, chosen one, a legacy that lives long after the lies have died. Your real strength isn't in what you say when you're under pressure, it's in how you move when no one's watching. That's where your reputation is carved, not in bold quotes, not in viral moments, but in the lingering peace you leave in rooms you've exited, in the way your presence calms chaos, in how you show respect without expectation, even to strangers, even to critics. So then, each of us will give an account of ourselves to God, and that's who you've been living for. Not them, not the crowd, not the doubters. Your account has already been written in private, and God has already sealed it in favor. That's why their narrative is powerless. That's why the mask they wore can no longer hold. You became the light they tried to distort, and now it's their shadows being exposed, not your truth. Chosen one, never underestimate the quiet power of a single memory. Not every witness to your life holds your full story, but even a brief encounter leaves something undeniable. Your tone, a receptionist you greeted with respect, a neighbor who only observed you from afar, a stranger who exchanged a moment with you. They may not know your journey, your battles, or your breakthroughs, but when your name comes up, they don't hesitate. They say what they've felt in the small moments. That one, no drama, solid presence. Isn't it incredible how integrity can leave a fingerprint in silence? Not because you performed, not because you tried, but simply because you were aligned. What happens when even those with no reason to defend you instinctively reject the lies? That's what your enemies never prepared for. They assumed your reputation was brittle, that just one whisper in the wrong room would be enough to tear it down. But instead of finding scandal, they run into a wall of quiet confirmations, not from fans or followers, but from bystanders, each one carrying a simple memory of your steadiness. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be true, it only has to be real, and what they encounter is a chain of small witnesses, all echoing the same unexpected verdict. You were consistent, you were respectful, you brought peace, and that consistency begins to dismantle every narrative built on suspicion. Because the thing about truth is, it's boring to drama lovers. It doesn't spike, it doesn't twist, it doesn't fold, and that's what creates panic in the hearts of those who tried to twist your image. How do you sabotage someone whose life doesn't contradict itself? How do you accuse someone when even their distance feels clean? That's not a mask you wear. That's maintenance, deep, inner spiritual work that you've done in silence, away from applause. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Psalm 51:10. You've let God cleanse your intentions, not for people but for purpose, and because of that even strangers speak your name with quiet reverence. That's not charm, that's truth with roots. That's not charisma, that's legacy. While others spent energy scripting their takedown of your character, you were out here actually living it, moment by moment, choice by choice. And the truth you've lived leaves behind a trail they can't erase. Think of actor Alan Rickman. Many knew him as the villain on screen, but behind the scenes, story after story emerged after his passing, from makeup artists, interns, background staff, about his kindness, generosity, and quiet dignity. He didn't broadcast who he was. He simply was that way. And when the time came, even those who knew him briefly had nothing but truth to offer. Your life is echoing in the same way, chosen one. You're not crafting an image, you're nurturing a reality. But here's where the misunderstanding grows deeper. They interpret your stillness as absence, your silence as defeat. They look at your distance and assume it means disconnection. They watch from the sidelines and say they're irrelevant now, simply because you don't orbit every social group, join every performance, or insert yourself in every trending moment. But they've misread your sanctuary for scarcity. Could it be that your refusal to be seen is the very thing that preserves your power? Could it be that your peace was never born in public, it was protected in solitude? The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Stillness isn't stagnation when you're aligned with God, it's strategy. While others entangle themselves in noisy alliances, emotional contracts built on ego and social performance driven by flattery, you've remained untangled. You chose not to feed the chaos. You chose not to attend every argument you were invited to. And now that consequences are knocking on the doors of the messy, your isolation has become divine insulation. You're not distant because you're excluded. You're distant because you're wise. Look at Kendrick Lamar, an artist who rarely appears in the media, avoids drama, and isn't constantly present in public conversations. Yet when he does appear, his presence shakes the world. Why? Because he never diluted his power by overexposure. He lets his silence hold weight. Just like you didn't lock yourself out of the room. You protected the room from becoming polluted. You didn't escape the chaos. You simply never let it in. So now, when the air thickens with rumors and names start getting dragged, you remain untouched, not because no one tried to pull you down, but because you never stood in the mud. Your name doesn't appear in their mess, because your spirit never agreed to the contract. They hoped your silence would discredit you. Instead, it elevated you, because now in hindsight your solitude reads like discernment. Your absence looks like wisdom, and your refusal to participate becomes the very proof of your integrity. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. You saw the danger in false proximity. You saw the trap in toxic social dynamics, and you stepped back, not to isolate, but to insulate. That decision, once mocked, now looks like brilliance. Because when the flood comes, the house built on rock doesn't move. While they panic in circles of confusion, you remain anchored. While they scramble to clean up alliances, you never had to. Consider the poet Emily Dickinson. Largely unseen in her own time, she chose a path of retreat. But her retreat wasn't weakness, it was refinement. And long after the noise of her generation faded, her voice remained, her words endured. Your quietness is carrying the same power. The world may not always understand your path while you walk it, but they will witness the results. You don't need the crowd to confirm what heaven has already declared. And now the great reversal begins. What they once mocked, your calm, your absence, your refusal to play their game, becomes the shield that guards your name. What they called cold now looks like clarity. What they labeled distant now feels like depth. They're just now realizing that while they were networking to stay relevant, you were nurturing your soul to stay aligned. And while they built platforms on performance, you built a legacy on peace. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:30. That's where your peace comes from. Trust. Not in public opinion, not in perception, but in God. That peace made you unshakable, it made you untouchable, and it made your story bulletproof. Chosen one, let this truth settle deep in your spirit. Your choices echo louder than any defense you could ever speak. While others spend their energy sculpting an image, polishing their public face, rehearsing how they want to be perceived, you've been doing something far more powerful. You've been living truthfully, quietly, consistently, not for show, not for approval, but because it's who you are. Every time you chose not to clap back, every time you honored peace over pride, every time you picked stillness over spectacle, those were not wasted moments, they were quiet testimonies. Have you ever considered that the integrity you show in silence is the very thing writing your legacy, that even when you feel invisible, your impact is taking root? You've never had to scream your innocence or post your character online, because your integrity doesn't need a stage, it leaves evidence in the atmosphere long after you've left the room. What if I told you that your stillness is more convicting than their accusations? That your private kindness, unshared, unrecorded, has built more trust than any platform could offer. By their fruit you will recognize them. Matthew 7:20. And your fruit, chosen one, has been showing up in every interaction, every encounter, every uncelebrated decision to stay grounded. Your truth hasn't needed press. It's been growing, quietly in the hearts of those who crossed your path, and they remember. A receptionist, a vendor, a quiet teammate. They may not know your story, but they know your tone. And when people ask about you, They don't receive silence or side eyes. They get respect, not the loud kind, not the flattery that fades when the door closes, but the honest kind that comes from people who have no reason to lie. The kind that says, I don't know much, but they've always been solid. And that unsettles the ones who've been crafting your downfall, because what they planned for was confusion. What they encounter is clarity. How do you tear down someone whose truth keeps surfacing in the mouths of witnesses you never paid, never prepped, never expected? This is the very thing that happened with Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. Decades after his passing, you can still find people of all ages, races and backgrounds sharing how one brief moment with him, one sentence or smile, marked their lives forever. Not because he campaigned for sainthood, but because his integrity lingered wherever he went. Just like you, he didn't need to perform. He lived in alignment. And the result? Legacy. Have you ever noticed how they misread your calm as dullness? How your choice to avoid chaos gets mislabeled as irrelevance? Isn't that something? Because you don't shout, they assume you're hiding. Because you don't play games, they assume you're out of the loop. But the reality is you're not being overlooked, you're being overestimated by heaven. Your stillness isn't passive, it's prophetic. While they spiral in attention-seeking theatrics, you've mastered restraint. You've built self-control where others built reactions. And in that gap, chosen one, God has built your strength. Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. That verse was written for you. Because what you're carrying isn't fragile, it's forged. And when they dig for something to expose, when they scroll through your history hoping for a scandal, when they try to bait you into a misstep, they come up empty. You don't leave trails of mess, you don't burn bridges in anger, you don't plant seeds of drama. And because of that, their weapons turn inward, their tactics implode. Think of Brendan Fraser, blacklisted for years, ridiculed in silence, abandoned by an industry he once dominated. But what eventually brought him back wasn't pity, it was truth, his quiet kindness, his humility, his unwavering character. As the noise faded, the people began speaking. From stunt coordinators to hotel staff, stories of Brendan's decency emerged, not because he asked for them, but because his truth never rang false. That's what you're walking in, chosen one. A foundation so strong it can't be cracked by rumor. A presence so stable that when the storm comes, you're the calm in the room. And now, as the sabotage attempts rise, they collapse under the weight of the credibility you've already sown. Your harvest is coming, not of applause, but of vindication. Not from the loud, but from the loyal. Not because you're perfect, but because you're honest. And in a world built on performance, your honesty has become rare and therefore powerful. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. You've let integrity guide you when the path was lonely, when no one clapped, when you could have retaliated and been justified, but you chose peace. You chose to stay rooted when others ran wild. You didn't perform for the crowd, you held your ground for your calling. Consider the grace of Malala Yousafzai, targeted for her voice, attacked for her strength, ridiculed by those too blind to see her truth. But did she scream to defend herself? No. She let her life speak, her actions, her discipline, her resilience, and slowly the world saw her not as a girl with a mic, but a woman with a mission. The power in her silence transformed nations. Your stillness is carrying the same potential. Don't doubt it. And when they call your silence weakness, remember this: even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Your silence has been your sword. Your patience has been your proof. And your restraint, it's been their frustration. They wanted a reaction, a slip-up, something messy to use as ammo. Instead, they encountered stillness, a kind of silence that speaks of discipline, of depth, of divine discernment. They wanted you to trip, but you trained. They wanted you to crack, but you were carved from stone. They wanted noise, but your calm was louder. To those who thrive on spectacle, your life might appear uneventful. They glance at your stillness and assume it's stagnation. But chosen one, what they fail to grasp is that stillness is not absence, it's power under control. It's not that you lack activity, it's that you walk with purpose, not panic. While others rush to be seen, to make noise, to spark attention for validation, you've been moving deliberately, refusing to trade peace for performance. They don't realize that what looks uneventful to them is in fact the greatest proof of your divine discipline. You're not boring, you're strategic. You don't move recklessly because you're not chasing reactions. You're walking in direction. And now that the dust is beginning to settle, it's not the loudest voice that remains. It's the one who kept quiet, kept moving, and kept their foundation intact. You weren't avoiding attention. You were preserving your legacy. Can you see now how the very thing they mocked, your discretion, your boundaries, your peace, has become the one thing they can't touch? While they crafted chaos, you crafted character. They orchestrated schemes, but your grounded nature gave them nothing to access. They anticipated your downfall, but your structure had no cracks. And because of that, you didn't just survive the attack, you were never vulnerable to it in the first place. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Your wisdom protected you long before the storm ever came. They were betting on weakness, but you were fortified in silence. They waited for you to trip, but how do you stumble when every step is ordered by divine alignment? Look at the life of Michelle Obama. Through years of media scrutiny and political storms, she rarely reacted to noise. Instead, she kept showing up with grace, clarity, and consistency. The world threw accusations and assumptions her way, but when the moment came for her truth to be revealed, her calm became her crown, her restraint became her authority. You, chosen one, are carrying the same mantle. You don't rush to fix the narrative. Your life does the talking. And that life, built in the quiet, now stands taller than any rumor ever could. And that's where their plans begin to fracture. Because they never searched for truth, they searched for confirmation. They set the stage not to discover who you are, but to validate the bitterness they already clung to. They weren't looking to understand. They were looking to accuse. They wanted to gather a case. But what they found was consistency. No chaos, no trail of drama, no breadcrumbs leading to scandal. Just quiet accounts from people who have no stake in your story. Colleagues, acquaintances, even distant observers, all delivering the same unexpected answer. Balance, honesty, boundaries, grace under pressure. For the Lord is righteous, he loves justice, the upright will see his face. Psalm 7:7. That's why your truth remains standing, because God himself delights in justice, and when he sees a chosen one walking upright, he sends confirmation from unexpected corners. The very places they thought would turn against you end up holding the line. The story they hoped to twist ends up unfolding with integrity. And the people they counted on to skew the truth instead refuse to lie, even if they're not your allies. That's when their plan doesn't just fail, it backfires. Because what was meant to be your breaking point becomes your proof of strength. You don't just emerge unharmed, you emerge confirmed. The spotlight they aimed at your flaws ends up illuminating their own motives. And when truth walks into the room, it doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. Suddenly they're standing in the aftermath of their own manipulation. What they meant as a trap has become a mirror, and the reflection staring back at them reveals something they were never ready to face: their own insecurity, jealousy, and desperation. Consider the case of Terry Crews. When he stepped forward with his truth about abuse in Hollywood, many tried to discredit him. They assumed he'd be an easy target, but his years of integrity, discipline, and honorable behavior spoke louder than their slander. People who had crossed paths with him, even briefly, recalled him as kind, clear, and composed. It wasn't just his voice that defended him, it was the track record of his life. And your life, chosen one, is doing the same. Every private decision to remain grounded is now standing up on your behalf. They misread your quiet presence as weakness. They confused your restraint with irrelevance. Because in their world, visibility equals value and noise equals influence. So when you didn't rush to be seen, when you didn't shout for attention, they assumed you had nothing to offer. But what they failed to see is that the strongest structures are often the least flashy. You don't crumble under pressure because you were never hollow. And when they try to explain why their narrative failed, they can't, because what holds you up isn't on display. It's your roots, not your surface. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season. and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. Psalm 1:3. That's what you've been rooted. Steady, quietly drawing strength from a deeper source. And now, when the wind blows and the storm rises, you don't shake, you stand. While they relied on shallow alliances and surface-level charm, you built respect that couldn't be faked. And that respect, slow-grown and unbought, is the very thing shielding you now. Not everyone speaks in your favor, but they also won't lie against you. That's what truly cracks their plan, because even those who are neutral, who owe you nothing, refuse to validate what they know isn't true. That's not manipulation, that's evidence. They can't reshape your image when too many have seen the real thing, and the more they push, the more the truth holds firm. Look at Anthony Bourdain, not a perfect man, but one who was consistently remembered as kind, genuine and present. People from kitchens, hotels, airports and small towns all over the world spoke not of scandal, but of depth. No matter how much noise circled around him, his truth kept speaking. And you, chosen one, are surrounded by that same quiet testimony, etched not in headlines, but in hearts. You don't have a fan club. You have something far more powerful, credibility. Not manufactured popularity, not borrowed influence, but something earned, layer by layer, in private moments and unseen decisions. Chosen one, you didn't build your name through applause, you built it through alignment. And now, even those who never got close to you know better than to question what time has proven true. Your consistency, your discipline, your refusal to drown in drama. They try to poke holes in your image, but what they run into is something they never expected, integrity that surrounds you like a fortress. You didn't need bodyguards. Your character became your protection. You didn't need to defend yourself in public. Your conduct whispered louder than any argument ever could. They weren't prepared for the invisible safeguards, the impressions you left without effort, the memories you shaped without announcements. You didn't walk into rooms to make noise, but you left behind something unforgettable: peace, stability, order. Your name doesn't bounce around for attention, but in the places that matter, it carries undeniable weight. They thought the right pressure would turn others against you, but what it turned up instead was hesitation, reluctance. Even those who aren't your allies won't participate in the smear. Isn't that something? They expected a network of support for their slander, and all they found were people who couldn't be recruited, not because they love you, but because they remember you, and what they remember is enough to neutralize the lie. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Your good name isn't a trend, it's a truth. You weren't networking for appearances, you were planting for legacy. And now, when someone tries to dig up dirt, all they find is soil too firm to manipulate. That's not luck, that's history. That's your reputation built brick by brick. And when everything else around you shakes, when others fall into conflict and spin out in chaos, people remember who stayed calm, who didn't panic, who didn't feed the fire. You're not held up by popularity, you're held up by memory, and even unspoken respect becomes a wall no accusation can climb. Think of actor and philanthropist Paul Newman. He didn't chase media attention or play the celebrity game. Instead, he lived with quiet generosity, creating food brands to fund charitable work, mentoring without broadcast. And when the media tried to probe or poke, there was nothing to exploit. His life was consistent, real. That's the power you carry, not perfection but pattern, not charm but principle. They assume they can uncover something damaging by collecting opinions, as if a few vague quotes will fracture the foundation you've built over years of discipline. But what they don't realize is they're not investigating, they're compiling a case, and the more they search, the more your record speaks back. Every moment you chose restraint instead of retaliation, every time you stayed composed when it would have been easier to clap back, every boundary you held without explaining yourself, those aren't just memories, they're receipts. They are your defense, quiet, strong, undeniable. Even a child is known by his actions, by whether his conduct is pure and right. You didn't curate an image, you lived with intention. And now they try to twist the story, but they walk into a body of work that won't bend to their plot. They search for scandal. What they find instead is steadiness, maturity, calm, not one dramatic highlight, but hundreds of subtle truths that build the picture they never expected, someone too real to be rewritten. That's what happened with singer-songwriter Saidi. Private, soft-spoken, often underestimated, but over decades her silence and grace built a brand of reverence. Industry insiders, even those who met her once, all echo the same thing. She's poised, kind, and doesn't play games. That reputation protects her more than any defense ever could. The same is true for you. You didn't have to outtalk your critics. You outlived their assumptions. They thought your silence was emptiness, but your silence was filled with decisions that became structure. Stillness doesn't mean you weren't active. It means your activity was anchored. They thought they were igniting a rumor mill, but instead they started a truth check. And truth, it's stubborn. It doesn't vanish under pressure. It multiplies through observation. People aren't guessing your intentions. They're remembering your conduct. They're not defending you because of strategy. They're being honest because dishonesty simply doesn't match what they've witnessed. The righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. And chosen one, the integrity you've walked in isn't just blessing you, it's echoing through the lives of those you've touched, through your example, your presence, your restraint. That's what disarms the attack. Not a counter-argument, not a campaign, just evidence. Think of Malcolm X, not always liked, often misunderstood, but deeply consistent. When people later studied his journey, his choices, his shift toward unity and truth, they couldn't deny the discipline. His life didn't need defending. It stood on its own, just like yours. Every quiet act of self-control, every moment you stayed grounded, it's standing now as a defense, far louder than you could have crafted with words. And so, when they launch their narrative, it doesn't catch fire. It crumbles. Because the people around them, people who should have been easy to convince, pause. They say, no, that doesn't sound like them. And that one sentence, that single flicker of honesty, breaks the illusion. The story doesn't align with the memory, and without agreement, the lie loses fuel. Now comes the unraveling. The most unsettling moment for them isn't when you speak, it's when you don't. And truth still finds its way into the room. They counted on you breaking character. They needed you to react, to yell, to slip. But you refused. You stayed poised, and that refusal, it stole the oxygen from their scheme. You didn't collapse the narrative. It collapsed under its own weight. You didn't fight for a spotlight. You let others bring it. And when the light finally turned on, it didn't reveal your flaw, it revealed their motive. You never needed to clarify. Your life already did. You never needed to expose. The silence of others spoke for you. While they fed confusion, you cultivated peace. And now, the conversation they tried to control is unraveling, not because you challenged it, but because it never had truth to stand on, and truth, chosen one, always finds its way through. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Matthew 5:37, your clarity, your steadiness, your simplicity, it's disarming everything. No spectacle, no drama, just integrity that won't break. And now, chosen one, the tables have fully turned, not with vengeance, not with violence, but with vindication. They're no longer just telling lies, they're chasing them, scrambling to hold together stories that unravel the moment truth walks into the room. They revise timelines, twist facts, trip over their own narratives in spaces where they once assumed no one was paying attention. But truth has a funny way of lingering. It listens, it waits. And when it arrives, it doesn't need to shout, it simply stands. And what about you? You never lifted your voice. You never had to, because the weight of your integrity was heavier than any comeback you could have crafted. Your silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. Your stillness wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. What once looked like passivity now reads as precision. And while they fought to create an illusion, you stayed faithful to the truth. And in the end, the truth didn't explode, it emerged, gently, consistently, through memory, through pattern, through the words of those who actually saw you and chose honesty over hype. You didn't win because you argued well. You won because you lived well. You didn't tear the lie down, you simply outlived it. And now, as the dust finally settles and the spotlight turns, it's not their accusations that echo, it's your record. Their weapons weren't defeated in combat, they disintegrated under the light of your consistency. That, beloved, isn't just strength, that's poetic justice, that's divine reversal. That's what happens when the chosen stay aligned, when they let God handle what man tries to distort. And if you're still here, still listening, still nodding because something in your spirit knows this message is for you, then thank you. Truly, thank you for walking with me through this word, for staying through every section, for reflecting with humility, and for standing in your own clarity as a chosen one. Your presence here means more than you know. If this message has spoken to your spirit, encouraged your soul, or confirmed your path, and you feel led to support this channel through a super thanks, your contribution will go a long way in helping us continue creating content that feeds and strengthens the spiritually awakened. Whether you choose to give or not, know this from the bottom of my heart, I am truly grateful for you. Your attention, your energy, your time, it's already a gift. You are deeply valued here. And before you go, let me speak this blessing over you. May your peace remain untouchable. May your integrity go before you like a shield. May your silence speak louder than slander, and your presence testify in rooms you've never entered. May no weapon formed against you prosper, and may every tongue that rises in judgment fall silent in the face of your legacy. May you continue to walk in such a way that your truth cannot be rewritten, your strength cannot be hidden, and your light cannot be dimmed. You are chosen, you are covered, you are confirmed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are. Until next time, stay rooted, stay calm, and stay unstoppable. God bless you always.